All right, I'm ready.
All right, it says we are now live streaming, so I think Chairman Woman.
I think we're ready. Okay. Good morning to all, and I welcome you to our annual Pitt County Legislative meeting. This year we cannot meet in person and have that breakfast, but we are still meeting with our delegation in order to talk with them about what Pitt County is all about and what we are looking to them to help us with. So I welcome all of you here, and I will call the Pitt County Board of Commissioner meeting to order. Madam Clerk.
Yes, good morning. Chairwoman Floyd Huggins.
Present.
Commissioner Albright.
Present.
Commissioner Colson.
Yes, I hear.
Commissioner McLaughlin.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, Commissioner Nunley.
Here.
Commissioner Ward.
Present.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Here.
It is noted that everyone is present with the exception of Vice Chair Fitzpatrick and Commissioner White.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I will now entertain a motion to excuse Madam Commissioner White and Commissioner Fitzpatrick.
Motion to forgive, excuse.
Second the motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we excuse Vice Chair Fitzpatrick and Commissioner White. Madam Clerk?
Chairwoman Floyd Huggins.
Yes.
Commissioner Albright.
Yes.
Commissioner Colson.
Yes.
Commissioner McLaughlin.
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Here. Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. And now, at this time, as I said, we are happy to have our legislative delegation with us this morning. And I did not hear who is on the call other than Humphrey and Davis and Candace. So at this time, I believe I want to hear just who is on the call, Madam Clerk.
Yes, ma'am. We have Senator Don Davis, Representative Chris Humphrey, Representative Candy Smith, and Legislative Assistant Katie Rogers.
For Brian Farkas.
For Representative Brian Farkas. And I believe that's everybody.
All right.
Who is Seth Woodard?
Hello, I'm Seth Woodard. I'm the legislative assistant to Senator Davis.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Good morning, Seth.
Good morning. We're so happy to have all of you on this call, and we will get started. We're a few minutes late, but we will get started, and I will ask our county manager, Scott Elliott, and Janice, and our attorney, Janice Gallagher, to give us an overview of the Pitt County adopted legislative goals.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. It's a pleasure to meet with everybody this morning virtually. Obviously, we normally do this face-to-face, and it's a breakfast meeting, but we will, as we're doing everything virtually, we'll do this virtually as well. And maybe next year we'll meet face-to-face. So the legislative goals process for Pitt County government is something that we kick off internally. We ask our department heads to submit suggested goals that then are submitted to myself and our management team that then are vetted by the Pitt County Board of Commissioners for a slate of legislative goals. We actually take our slate and submit it to the NCACC as well to ask it to be considered as part of their legislative agenda and folded into their process. But what we're here this morning about is the specific goals that pertain to Pitt County government. Janice has really taken the lead, as she does every year on this, to gather these goals. I'm going to ask her to take the lead in presenting them. I'll chime in and supplement as needed. But Janice, if you'll cover these, and then we'll take questions afterwards.
Yes, glad to. And good morning to everyone. Thank you again, all of you, for being here. I'm thrilled to have the opportunity every year to share with you the things and the goals that are important to Pitt County as we do our best to try and serve our citizens collectively. So this year, in August of 2020, the Board of Commissioners adopted 7 legislative goals to pursue for the upcoming 21-22 biennium, beginning with this year's long session. 2 of the 7 goals, and the 7 goals are generally listed on your agenda. The first 2 of those 7 goals are really defensive in nature. I usually call those, they show up every year on your goals list. And I like to think of them as the kind of do no harm goals. And that's really to preserve status quo. The first of those goals is general revenue protection. As you know, obviously, counties' revenues are critical in maintaining the services and functions that we have to provide. We rely upon existing revenues, taxes, and fees that we are authorized to levy, and we use those to meet our needs. So Pitt County reaffirms in its goals this year that we oppose any efforts that erode that tax base. In other words, any bill that would reduce our existing revenue streams will have detrimental impacts on our ability to carry out our functions. And so as a general goal, we would like to preserve our existing general revenues. And on the flip side is goal number 2, which in the same fashion is somewhat passive, to oppose unfunded mandates. And in that one, we recognize that sometimes there are additional tasks that the state might believe is better carried out at the local level. And as partners, that's absolutely appropriate. But what we ask is that should you shift or pass anything to the state, that it come with the allocation of funds necessary to carry that out. Given limited resources, when mandates are passed down to the county from other sources, it has sometimes dire consequences if we have to pull funds that are existing for one function and transfer them to another. Then I'll go into the next 5, which require more proactive effort. Let me tell you too, I'm just going to touch on each goal briefly. Please feel free to interrupt me as we go along or ask your questions at the end, whichever you prefer. So goals 3 through 7, I'll start with number 3, which is broadband. There's been absolutely no question, and we've seen this highlighted through the pandemic, that we need to enhance internet connectivity in Pitt County. And to the extent the state can assist us through grant funding opportunities, with opportunities like through the Great Grant Program and otherwise, the county would be grateful and would receive extreme benefit from that. Internet connectivity is no longer, and I know I'm preaching to the choir here, it's no longer a luxury. It's something that we have to have for work, for education, for day-to-day life and activities. And while Pitt County has fared better than some other counties, we still have gaps in coverage and service. And so we understand that there are solutions both through fiber and cloud. And so to the extent the General Assembly can support us by continuing to make grant funds available to assist in those infrastructure needs, that would be our goal number 3. Goal number 4, and I'm just going to move on unless you stop me, and we can talk about any and all of these at the end. Goal number 4 has to do with maintenance bonds for subdivision streets. And so Brian Farkas, this might have been new to him for Katie's sake, I'll provide some brief background. Maintenance bond for subdivision streets has been a goal we have been kicking around in looking at my notes now since 2013. This is a goal that seeks to address subdivision streets that have been dedicated as public right-of-way to be accepted by the Department of Transportation for maintenance, that have come into poor repair, and there's no longer a developer available. We continue to keep this goal on our list because we continue to need legislative authority to hold the developer responsible through a maintenance bond. By way of just a brief history, in 2013, Pitt County had an ordinance that required maintenance bonds so that when a developer laid out streets in a neighborhood, there was a bond available to keep those streets in good repair until they were taken over by DOT. That's a lengthy process. In 2015, through House Bill 721, the General Assembly repealed authority for a maintenance bond. And since that time, we've just been seeking to restore that authority. I thank you for your efforts in 2015, 16, 17, 18, and 19, because in every session so far, you have been responsive to our request, and you have introduced bills that for one reason or another have not been able to come out of committee to authorize a maintenance bond. So at some point you may tell me this is futile, but it is still important to Pitt County and it remains on our list. The next goal after that has to do with fully funding state responsibilities for public education. On this one, I think we have always recognized that we share the significant burden of funding public education with the state. And our responsibilities and roles are fairly clear. The county handles the capital, the state handles the operating expenses. What this goal asks is essentially two things. One thing is to please fully fund your operating expenses so that the county can dedicate its funds to the capital needs as the structure was intended. And as it is now, the county continues to supplement shortfalls in operating needs for the schools, which limits our ability to fully fulfill our capital needs. So we just ask that we'll do our part and you do your part, but we will also ask that in doing our part, where the state takes action, where the General Assembly takes action that results in significant new capital expenses, we ask for your financial support through the issuance of bonds for that purpose. And not to beat around the bush, what I'm talking about, for example, is class size reduction. We don't dispute that class size reduction was a great thing, but the financial impact of reducing class sizes leads us to almost a $90 million future expenditure for capital needs. And to the extent the state can issue bonds to assist us with capital needs, we are in support of that and ask for your support in that area.
Janice, if I can pipe in and add there, talked to Dr. Linker this morning just to get more local perspective on HB 90. And technically for those counties in North Carolina that don't have a waiver, or in what is he called a waiver pattern, this is the last year that they have to come into conformance with those classroom size reductions, which kind of, if it goes back to one of the first goals with unfunded mandates, we kind of feel like to some degree this kind of hits on the unfunded mandates because we realize capital is our responsibility, but when you reduce classroom size and you then put this mandate on us for, it goes above and beyond all the other brick and mortar we're doing for not only the public school system, but the community college, we then struggle. We're fortunate because we are in this waiver pattern, and that's only because we're receiving federal and state grant dollars that's allowed the school system to stay in this pattern, which we think can go for another year or two, but eventually we're gonna have to pay the piper. And at this point in time, we really, without raising property taxes, we don't have a way to do this. We have utilized the quarter-cent sales tax, which we dedicated for school capital construction, K through 12 and community college. We have pretty much have maxed that out in terms of leveraging it towards debt service. So without another quarter-cent sales tax or without some help from the state, as Janice alluded to, in terms of a statewide bond referendum, we're really going to be in a pinch going forward. We have over, and Brian, you can confirm this, but we have over $200 million documented in our CIP for both Pitt County Schools and Pitt Community College in terms of all their capital needs in our CIP, which is just very almost unmanageable. So we would be in some, well, I don't want to speak to the Board of Commissioners, but I would think that a statewide bond referendum might be one solution toward meeting that goal, unless the delegation or the General Assembly has other means of helping us meet our needs there.
Yeah, and support for that statewide bond referendum is specifically included in the detail of our goal. After today's, this morning's meeting, I'll be happy to send to the delegation too a one-page list that contains more details on each of these goals, so you can have them at your disposal. So I'll be happy to send that to you as well following this morning's meeting. The last two, number 6, we hope is an easy fix. And this relates to a local bill for Pitt County is what we're requesting, to allow us to use attachment and garnishment for the collection of delinquent ambulance service accounts. And it's really to give us the authority to do that. Right now, the current law allows delinquent ambulance bills to be collected through all remedies available to governments if it is a county-run squad or a franchised squad. There are many counties like Pitt County that have different models. We have 2 county-run squads. We don't have any franchise squads, but we have 8 contracted squads for which we provide emergency services to the community. We just want some cleanup that assures that we can use all remedies that we use for the county collected squads with these contracted squads. Union County got ahead of us on this. And Union County, actually back in 2014, sought a local bill and successfully sought clarification that this that we could have consistency. And really what we want to do is treat all people the same in terms of collection. And so right now there are remedies available to folks who ride on the Bethel squad or the Petola squad for collection that are not legally available if you're in if you're riding in the Winterville Rural District. And so, for example, and so we hope it will be an easy cleanup, and we would like a local bill for Pitt County that is the same as Union. My thanks go out to Seth, who was on our call meeting this morning, and he and I have spoken about this, and Seth is the legislative assistant in Don Davis's office. And I have shared information with him, and I appreciate y'all being very proactive in trying to get something introduced on the Senate side as a local bill to move this forward. I defer to you as whether or not it's good to have one on the House side as well. And I know as our delegation, you all work together. So thank you to Senator Davis's office for already getting us started down this path. But we hope this will be an easy, non-controversial local bill that will create some consistency and parity in Pitt County on emergency service collections. And then the last one we have is a goal that's really coming and has been initiated from our court system, particularly Judge Marvin Blunt and Judge Wendy Hazelton. And this is a request for funding for both a pretrial services program and behavioral health court. They have come to the county on numerous occasions seeking additional funding for these 2 programs. And given limited resources, this goal requests that we either have some state resources allocated for a pilot program to get us going that the county will then continue, or to seek support for a grant program that all counties could apply from to assist in the facilitating the development of these programs. And so it's really a funding request for the court system for both pretrial services. And what that would do is fund a facilitator who will send out reminders of court dates to reduce, for example, the number of failure to appear arrests. We're filling up our jails with folks who are missing a court date. And perhaps if they had a reminder by text, like other counties do, who offer pretrial services programs, we might could avoid the cost of incarceration by a text message reminding someone of their court date. Similarly, for behavioral health court, we have a team of individuals in the community that are working with those who have who are navigating the court system, but the root cause of their issues is really related to their behavioral health. And so having supports and programs in place to address those issues while an individual is navigating the court system, we hope will reduce recidivism, reduce that person from coming back and doing the same thing, and create some long-term solutions. I will say Judge Blunt has been our champion on pretrial services, and Judge Wendy Hazelton has been our champion on behavioral health court. We support their efforts and have added it as one of our goals because we believe it will benefit Pitt County overall. Don't want to take too much of your time this morning. So in a nutshell, those are our goals. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, provide any greater detail. I will send the one-page more detailed sheet out to everyone after the meeting, but I'll turn it back over to the chair to facilitate any further discussion there may be.
Thank you, Janice. We will use the hand raise feature. So if you would raise your hand, I will call on you and you may make comments or pertaining to the list that our attorney just went over. And I see, and I see Senator Don Davis' hand up.
Where is that feature? I just saw.
Oh, look on the participant. Click on participant.
Okay, because I'm on a full screen view here, so I don't.
We'll consider your hand raised.
I see it. My bad. All right. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Senator Davis.
Representative Humphrey, I'm gonna lower mine and raise it again for you. Okay. I want to start by thanking the commissioners for all the work that you've done, especially during these extremely difficult times. Difficult times have presented us with many difficult decisions. We haven't agreed perhaps on all the decisions along the way, but this is what I maintain, is that our county remains a leader in Eastern North Carolina. And I really appreciate all the efforts pouring through all these issues that you do day in and day out. Now, after lauding you for the great work that you're doing, I know this and I get it coming from local government. It would be impossible without just talented and amazing staff. We have an awesome team. Scott, Janice, so many along the way. We're constantly back and forth with each other, making sure that we understand what is important for the county and for our citizens. So I really pause and say thank you. And obviously, on behalf of our delegation, it's really an honor to serve. We've had, I believe, amazing legislators to represent our delegation. And I believe we've continued in that spirit. Representative Humphrey, it's always good, and I appreciate, working with you across the aisle on many issues. Representative Smith remains really just an awesome and committed to the county. And we do look forward to working with Representative Farkas in this capacity here. For all of us, times are very tough, and during tough times, it requires for all of us to step up. So starting down the list, I do want to get myself out of a little trouble here to at least bring some clarity. We've been communicating, as I've said, with Janice, and on the ambulance delinquency bill, we do have that bill actually drafted, And what I was going to do is send it then the draft of that to all of our House members. And I'm very certain that we'll have companion bills actually filed in both the Senate and the House. So we're on top of that. But one thing that's very exciting that I really want to come back and say is we went to work earlier this week on Wednesday. And by midday, we had 3 bills all in support of Brody School of Medicine. And when Janice, when you talk about the first 2 points there, give us enough money to operate and don't send us unfunded mandates. In essence, I'm going to shift that conversation to, let's look at ways to increase our tax base and build our economy back during these tough times. And without a doubt, when you see the level of interest with the Brody School of Medicine, we know we need this facility. We know the economic impact of about a $395 million economic impact, 1,700 jobs. This is huge, not only for us, but for Eastern North Carolina. So I'm just excited to see the level of interest. And I'm going to just explain it this way. There was a leadership bill from House leadership, and Representative Humphrey had definitely the opportunity to be a part of that bill. And when you get the Speaker of the House and the Majority Leader leading on a bill, you don't pass up the opportunity to put your name on that bill. And Representative Humphrey, thank you for being a part of that. We also had a delegation bill. We want everyone to know in this community, in the county, and Eastern North Carolina, that we remain committed to this. We're going to rise above all these issues that's come up in the past and stay in the fight because this is necessary for Eastern North Carolina. And obviously, you saw, a companion bill on the Senate side. Now, here it is. How often do you get on these early bills on day one, House, Senate, Democrats, and Republicans all agreeing? So I look at this as a very positive, and let's work to get it done. And this is what I know. We have to work together on this. There's mutual interest for the benefits, the greater benefit of Eastern North Carolina, and it's going to take all of us to get this over the finish line. And I'm definitely on board. And thank you again to our delegation members. I would go on to say, because this issue came up in December, there was concerns about funds that we'd put in a COVID relief package for broadband. And I just want to, share, actually, it was last April when we were sorting through the pandemic and how, we're going to proceed with schools, and we see all of this shift to remote learning. We knew we had dead spots out there in terms of internet. And I reached out then to the Department of Information Technology, DIT, and to understand the GREAT grant. I want everyone to be clear, is specifically for those of us in more rural communities and settings, and have those access issues in terms of either no service or unreliable service. That's another part of this discussion too. You can have internet and lose a call or lose connectivity, so that unreliable service is part of this. And what we did then was reached out to see how many applications were sitting on file with the intent of fully funding those applications. What we also understood, we actually waived dates and deadlines to consider all those applications. But part of the challenge then, and it wasn't just with the GREAT grant program, but it was with other efforts that we were working on during these difficult times of COVID. And that was trying to operate within the federal guidelines. Because in short of on the infrastructure issue, the federal government, for the most part, was saying to us, it's not just entering an agreement on the dollars, but actually delivering the product. So in other words, if we were to pursue broadband, they wanted the delivery, but the problem was we only had the December 30th date that we had to meet. So there was a lot of questions. And then when we got towards the end there, with OSBM, they were raising concerns that there was not clear federal guidance to do so. And to this date, I know there has been communication with the federal government, the Treasurer's Office, and I still don't know that there's been clarity provided on that. So there was basically an agreement that was made that we would switch eligible dollars from the general fund that we're going to use, swap those that we knew were eligible with COVID dollars, and then come back this session and use general fund dollars for the broadband to fund the Great Grant program. There's bipartisan support to do so. And that will be, I believe, one of the earlier priorities you see come out of the General Assembly. COVID-19, will continue a relief package be a top priority that I believe you see come out of the General Assembly. This is important, it's huge. I'm hitting on a few other topics. Janice, we're not giving up on the subdivision maintenance bond yet. We're going to stay at it. And, I can tell you this, I've seen some bills that takes a decade and others we can get done in a matter of a couple days. This one's just taken a little longer, but nevertheless, we remain committed and understand the greater issue that's before us. There's nothing, in my opinion, that can be greater for the state of North Carolina than pursuing a school construction infrastructure transportation type bond. We need to do that, in my opinion. The issue has not been the House. Matter of fact, I believe most of our House members, except for Representative Farkas, have probably already, voted to some extent on, these bond packages. The Speaker has been pretty supportive of a bond, and the issue has been on the Senate side. What I would simply say, there's still conversations taking place. What's at front and center on this in terms of whether we pursue a bond, from the best that I can tell right now, is waiting to get the first economic forecast from the state's economist, Dr. Barry Boardman. And that should be taking place in the next few weeks, and it'll take place right before the governor actually releases his budget. That's going to be a work in progress. There's a lot of needs out there. I think the one thing I would probably, say that, the interest rate's low, the timing could not be better, for us to pursue a bond. And if we're going to be honest about it, even if we pursue the bond, there's going to still be much need that goes way beyond that bond, but at least it is a step in the right direction. The last thing that I would say, I do absolutely commend all of our judges, and especially Judge Blunt for his leadership when it comes to helping us all understand the importance of pretrial services. This to much extent, some of this is dealing with trying to do the right thing to help people, especially those who are not of a harm to society. We do definitely hear you on that front. And I just want to thank you for, presenting the legislative agenda to us, taking the time to meet with us. This is kind of the starting point, as you always know, and as issues emerge, I think it's safe to say on behalf of our delegation that we all stand 100% to fight for our county. And I just don't know if you really understand. We are not perfect as a delegation. We don't agree 100% of the time. So what I can tell you is this delegation, we have traditionally operated much more effective and working together and than what you sometimes run into in other parts of the state. And I'm just honored to be able to work with these distinguished members of the General Assembly.
Thank you, Senator Davis, for your comments of all of the issues that Madam Attorney presented on the Commissioner's behalf. Do I have any hands, questions, comments?
Representative Humphrey.
Okay, Representative Humphrey.
Yeah, thank you. I just had a few follow-up questions. Thank you, Senator Davis, for going through that list. I know a lot of it's fairly new to me, and just hearing it over and over. I'm sure we heard it before, but we hear so many things. So it helps to hear it multiple times. But I just want to thank you all, staff, commissioners. You fight hard for Pitt County, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate being able to work with all of you. Just a few questions, and then I know we've got to go here. But Janice, you mentioned revenues. Do you have a revenue projection, you or Scott, on Pitt County's some forecast? I mean, are things looking a little better than expected? Greenville's got a lot of great press lately, so
I'll be happy to take that. We went into this fiscal year cautiously in terms of adopting the budget and held the line on a lot of our revenues. We were really cautious about sales tax. We didn't really know through the pandemic how it would perform, but we've actually performed very well. Our property tax collections are on track and slightly exceeding prior year. So from a budget standpoint, we're on track. We're not suffering from the pandemic at this point. So that's good news on a local level.
Okay, good. I was hoping to hear that, and I think that's fairly true across North Carolina, which is a good sign. But we've got to be prepared for the rainy day that's around the corner, most likely. I mean, every 7-8 years, it seems like we hit a valley somewhere. But that's just the way our economy rolls.
And I'll just add briefly too that both our population and tax base continue to grow despite the pandemic. We've had at least 3 significant economic development investments that will result in some increased tax base, and so we're appreciative of that as well.
Yeah, we were actually taken from the tier 1 status. Yeah, tier 1 back to tier 2. We've historically been a tier 2, but in 2020 we were. December 2019, we were classified to 2020 to a tier 1 status. We haven't been tier 1 as far as we can remember, but due to our population growth and other factors, it put us back into the tier 2. We were also named by some type of a resource publication. The Greenville market area is the #1 area of in-growth migration for people coming to it in the nation. It was some shocking statistic that came out that that Greenville and our area have capitalized upon to say, hey, we're #1 above Las Vegas, above all these major metropolitan areas. Somehow we landed right on the exact statistic that allowed us to be #1. So we're proud of that.
I saw that. That was exciting news. And I know, I remember when you guys fell out of the tier 1 status, Pitt County was offended. I mean, Lenoir County, we've been tier 3 forever. And, it does give you a kind of a leg up on some incentives. So to see Pitt County really take that personally, I was impressed, because you strive to be tier 1. Just a couple more things. Janice, do you remember the bill number, the Union County bill?
I do.
I just wanted to look it up. I know we've been talking about this, but I just wanted to.
Yeah, and I can email that to you as well to confirm. I have the session law, which was session law 2014-72.
Okay, all right. I can probably Google
For
that.
Union County, 2014-72.
Okay, and 2 more questions. Pre-trial services. How much funding do you think would be required to fulfill this request?
So I have done some proposed budgets in working with Judge Blunt. I think for a full year, he would love to see about $300,000 for full year funding. If you look at comparable programs, Durham is really the model. Durham County has the incredible model of pretrial services, and their budget's $1.5 million. I've also seen programs that operate as low as $150,000. So I don't see us pursuing the Cadillac. And I want to do more than just text messaging. So I believe that in the $250,000 to $300,000 range would give us a program we could be proud of.
And is that a recurring request?
As long as you will recur it, knowing that if we get a boost in a pilot, we want to do our part too. We recognize and appreciate the value. It's just hard. It's always easier to continue something in place than it is to kick it off brand new. And the state has often come through for us with pilot funding that gets things going. And then I obviously am not speaking on behalf of the commissioners, but I believe, knowing the value of this program, we will continue to work drawing on our revenues and increased tax base to keep it going.
Okay, last question, and we'd probably ask this at breakfast. It wouldn't be a public question. I don't think it's off limits, but I get a lot of complaints regarding Sudden Link. And I know we're live streaming. They're probably gonna cut off my internet now, but remind me how the franchise works. I was a commissioner for 8 years, but a long time ago in Lenore County, and I can't remember, but I get more complaints on Sudden Link, and I hate to single them out, but it's every day. Congressman Murphy had a big post. You probably saw it. I mean, you can't be ticking off people, especially a congressman, but everyday people are complaining, and I don't have time to deal with an internet provider that is given the opportunity to provide services in our Lenore County and Pitt County, and it's frustrating. I'm sorry to bring this up in a public forum like this, but it's got to frustrate you guys, because I know you get complaints. I know Senator Davis and Representative Smith and Farkas do too. What can we do? I know Tarboro has, filed a complaint. Josh Stein is looking at some action. So what, as the attorney, Janice, maybe?
Yeah, so just in terms of defining who has authority, there was a period of time where county governments franchised cable providers and internet providers. And then the state decided to end that authority. And now Pitt County holds no local franchises for cable or internet services. So as a county, we have no legal authority to address the situation. There are state franchises though. And so the state through the Attorney General's office and through, I'm blanking right now, the department that handles the complaints. There's an online portal for complaints, an investigatory process, and state level authority to address those concerns. I hear those concerns anecdotally all of the time. I struggle with the best approach. We are grateful for every business who wants to serve our community. And we recognize that we can't legislate quality of customer service, right? We can legislate floors. And so I think if there is any civil or criminal wrongdoing that folks have evidence of, certainly that's within the purview of the Attorney General's office. It's unfortunate Commissioner White couldn't be with us this morning. I know she wanted to be, but wasn't able to. She's added an agenda item for Monday's commissioners meeting to talk about this very issue. And I think most recently she's converted her request for a letter to Josh Stein to be a forum for public input, so that she could better learn and document what some of the concerns are. And I think she is open to facilitating discussion with Sudden Link. I think we'll get further if we have conversations, set forth clear expectations, and support our community service providers. And then I'll just end by saying, I think the market will help if we can get some competition in Pitt County. And I know the city of Greenville's taken some great strides in working with another provider for fiber service. The county has had conversations with Cloudwise and some other entities who could provide some cloud-based internet services. In my life experience, competition increases level of service, right? When you force somebody to do something and tell them they have to do it, even if they do it, it's going to be begrudging. But if we allow the market to work some of its magic, that might be a path. I've talked with the chair, and I know that she wants to be solutions focused. And so I just say we continue to put our heads together to develop the solutions, to provide the alternatives, to increase the competition in the market, and to help anybody who wants to serve our community to do it in the best way that they can.
Thank you very much. That concludes my questions.
All right. Thank you, Representative Humphrey. And as Madam Attorney said, Commissioner White, she has been talking about the complaints that she hear from customers, from citizens about Suddenlink. So that is a big problem here in Pitt County, and as you said, as well as Lenore County, I'm sure. Okay, I see Representative Candace Smith hand up. Representative Smith, you unmute.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna unmute. Okay, of course, Senator Davis has already shared a lot of the same concerns that we have as a delegation. We appreciate working with you guys as a county. We appreciate you giving us your items that you want us to fight for. I think one of the things I wanted to focus on is when Janet said, easy and non-controversial. If I can ever find that to happen, it'll be a miracle. But just know that we are working together as a delegation, and we're going to do everything that we can to fight. When I look at broadband, it affects me. I'm surprised mine has not went out already. And I share the same sentiments that Representative Humphreys talks about with Suddenlink, because most of the people complain is probably me because mine does not work, and I'm across the river, and I think about the students who have school. So we're going to continue to work on that. That's a major issue because it affects all of us. But we will be working with Senator Davis and with Representative Humphrey and Representative Farkas, and we're going to work collaboratively to see what we can get passed as far as the issues from the county. I wish I could tell you 100% that everyone will make it through committee, but since you've been working for several years on one, just know that we are fighting, and we do put your concerns out there. We were blessed last year to be able to have the one about animal control. We were able to have that one passed, which was a blessing last year, but we fought and partnered with the Senate, and so that one was able to go through. So we're going to just keep inching at it and keep fighting for it, and we appreciate all that you guys do as commissioners, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to hear what your concerns are.
Thank you so much, Representative Smith. Commissioner Nunley, you did have your hand up. I saw that.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to dovetail on the Suddenlink. I guess what I would rather talk about are more broadly broadband utility provider question. I just want to, as a member of the commission, and express my view that I feel that it's very important, especially as we have new vendors coming online within the community. I think that we have to be very cautious that we are not engaging and tipping the market one way or the other. That we are really not, I feel like we're best positioned to advocate for that market being efficient, that we provide a fertile playing ground for that. But as soon as we start to sponsor and to elevate concerns that might be seen as attacking a current provider of what is now a utility, I think we run the risk of not to say that anything that's being suggested is doing it, but we start to maybe color what we're doing as showing some level of preference for a private company or disfavoring a private company. I think that's a very dangerous road to go down. And so I think any discussion that we have on this, especially as we have more vendors coming online, that we need to be very cautious as a government body about how we handle it. I don't think that we as a government body should be willy-nilly criticizing the providers in a public forum personally. I think that that's irresponsible, maybe legal, but I question whether or not it's a prudent way moving forward. So I just wanted to air that. I think it's really important that as the chair suggested that, and Janice suggested, that we really be solutions based in our approach. And really, I support a market driven approach moving forward. And I hope that, again, just an individual commissioner's perspective, that those of you at the state level are hearing us, that competition is going to help make things better for the end consumer.
Thank you for your views, Commissioner Nunley. Okay, I see Commissioner Perkins Williams. And
I don't want to jump ahead of her. I just want to welcome Brian Farkas. It appears he's just joined us late. So thank you, Representative Farkas, for joining us.
Great to see everyone today. My apologies for being a little behind today. I had a meeting with a client. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you for being on.
Madam Chairman, thank you
Yes.
for recognizing, but I see Senator Davis with his hand up, and since he is one of our honored guests, may I yield the screen to him? But I do have something I want to say. I have some notes.
Well, let's let you go on, and we'll come back to Senator Davis.
All right. Well, thank you. I have been an end user of CenturyLink, and I'm now an end user for Suddenlink, because someone said, well, Miss Mary, you should try Suddenlink. So I used CenturyLink for a long time. Now I'm using Suddenlink. I guess it's been 3 years or more. Here's the thing, and I don't give on, I'm not dealing with criticizing a company. When you're in business, service is your best advertisement. And as an end user, we pay for service. And what I'm dealing on is facts. Businesses seems to be very weak, no matter who they are, with customer services. When you pay money, especially when you don't have a lot of money to give. We don't have free television anymore. I wouldn't even have either one of them because I'm cheap. But the fact is that we have to have internet for a number of reasons and for a number of uses for the household now, beyond education. Some of the appliances doesn't work without some of it. But what I want to do is, if it can stay consistently on, because when you're using it and it go out, the fact is, and if you are a supplier of internet, the fact is, it's bad when it rains. And I think Candy hit it on the head, because we don't live far from each other. It will go out. Mine went out, and I was in the middle of doing a document trying to send somebody something. I had to start it all back over again. So the bill was paid. I keep a folder of all my bills. I keep a folder, and in that bill, when I call, I write on the back. And so I tell them what the problem is, because it is my belief as a business degree person is that you are buying a service, you're supposed to get results. And what bothers me is, as an owner and a supplier, if you know that these things are happening, then I'm naive enough to think that you'll want to fix it, because you will want to keep the service. Getting a new service doesn't mean that you're going to get a better service. Like I said, I went from CenturyLink to Suddenlink. And then when Spectrum came up, they said they are, and not all of the services are supplied to all of us in Pitt County. Some of us don't have the privilege of buying or paying for the various services. Am I making myself clear? CenturyLink said they don't serve out here, Candy. So the thing of it is, we have no choice. And there are 2 or 3 households that have no choice of any of it and must use a disc. And every time it rains, because a neighbor used to have disc, you get clouds, fuzz, or whatever it is, but you don't have access of using your disc until there is a consistent service of internet. We're going to be behind the 8 ball. I think that's right in shooting pool. We're going to be behind 8 ball. The fact is the service is not consistent. It's not supplied to everyone. And the charges are, you can never use it as a budget. Maybe that's the best way to put it. The charges change from month to month to month. And you haven't asked for anything, and you're not buying those pay-per-view, and you're not doing any of that because you have it for internet or maybe telephone. But the thing of it is that's the problem, Representative Humphrey. And it's nice to hear you say something about Suddenlink. But I do know that Suddenlink can provide services because once upon a time, Bethel didn't have them. And they are having great services in Bethel right now. They don't go out. The children are able to use it in the youth center. They are sponsored. They do some good things, Representative Humphrey and Senator Davis. These companies do some good things when they want to make the statement. Bethel gets great service and they don't fall out. I'm being long, but they don't fall out. I get a lot of things. I brought it up in a county meeting one time. I'm glad Lauren brought it up because now it's on the agenda. I brought it up in a county meeting and nobody wanted to address it. But it's hard when you try to get on. And I'm not the best user of these technology stuff because I out-age them. But I want you to know I do try, and I try to learn new stuff. And God has blessed me to have one of my own technicians. But I want you to know not everybody have it. And we want to keep up with the rest of you on the other side of the creek. And I don't have it. And I'm going to be short, and I'm going to cut it off right now because it's an emotional service for me. Because when you're paying money that you're not getting service for, that's money wasted. And since I'm talking, and I'm not going to talk again, subdivision. The potholes are no longer potholes. They are reservoirs for ponds. And when the car hits it and knocks it out of line and it tears up the car, you have to take the money off the table where you're feeding your family and put it on the potholes when you live in the rural area so you can get to services within the city limits. So, and this one has been on ever since I've been a commissioner, more than 5 years now. But I want you to know, Representative Humphrey and Representative Farkas and Candy deals with. But I want you to know that the potholes are not just an aggravation. It cuts into your budget when you don't have money to spread beyond that. That's my sentiment. And if the public hear me, they are probably cheering. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Perkins Williams. Senator Davis.
Yes, I want to be brief because I wanted to make sure all of our delegation members.
Yes, I want to give Representative Farkas.
That's right. But I wanted to kind of come back to this conversation and what Commissioner Nunnally, I believe, and even our attorney was alluding to. I think we need to continue to be advocates for broader connectivity. And I want to be clear, the state has made investments in this. We're going to all have a chance to vote most immediately in probably a few weeks here in that supplemental grant funding funds that we're talking about. There are, I believe, 3 projects within our county that we're beneficiaries of. So the state, we're making the investment. We're going to continue to push the conversation for greater investments. And then the other thing that I would just really want to commend this board is the county did get behind, for instance, the Harvest Beam application for USDA rural development. And the reason that is significant is because that is a different use of technology when we talk about wireless or the cloud, utilizing vertical assets. I believe we need to continue down that road. And what they're talking about in that pathway, if funded, there's some 70 odd applications at the federal level right now that's vying for these dollars. But we're talking about, gaining greater connectivity through Aden Grifton, and as they continue to build out, coming back into the northern part of the county, Commissioner Perkins Williams. So the county, I want to be clear, and state, there's been meaningful investments, and the reason you see public dollars being utilized this way is because it's very costly often for these companies to also get the services across communities, across the county. And, one thing that I'm definitely committed to is making sure that we're working across the county. I believe everybody deserves that access, whether they have students that are using it for school, whether farmers are using it for, their operation. We need these reliable services. But I want to step back and say there are things that are taking place, and let's continue to also focus on those positive things that are definitely taking place as well.
Thank you, Senator Davis. Do we have any other? Oh, Representative Farkas.
Great. Well, thank you again for putting this together. My apologies for being a little late to the meeting today, but I've enjoyed stepping into this role with as the freshman member of the delegation. I've got to say, I really feel like we've hit the ground running this session. I'm sure you all have probably talked about Brody and the news we had there earlier, but I really feel like all of us here are working on as one team to make big progress on some of these big investments. Broadband is something that I've been working on, and as a matter of fact, I've got a briefing from the CloudWise organization later today that I'll be meeting with them to make sure I'm up to speed on where we're at and how best we can make sure state government's supporting what you all are doing on the ground. In terms of just new updates for me really quick, I have been assigned to the following committees in the legislature. I've got Commerce, I've been assigned Transportation, the Education Committee, the Education Community Colleges Committee, Appropriations, General Government, and Appropriations, which the bigger, broader Appropriations Committee. I think there's some great opportunities there for me to work on a number of these issues that you all are talking about. And yeah, I'm ready to get to it. So looking forward to work with everybody, and please know that I'm fully available to you, as well as my legislative assistant, Katie Rogers, who I believe is on the call. But thank you all for setting this up, and yeah, appreciate your time.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments? I don't see any other hands. Madam Attorney, do you see any that I don't see?
I do not see any other hands, and it is 11:11 if you wanted to be mindful of time.
Okay. Well, I believe, as you said, it's 11:11. So, and we'd set this for 11 o'clock, from 10 until 11, I believe. So we're at that time. I want to thank each one of our legislative members, representatives, and senators for coming on and listening to us, and that they are committed to working together for the good of Pitt County. And I'm sure that's going to go forward. They've talked, you heard all of our concerns, and I don't have to repeat them, but talking about the state, about doing a state bond, statewide bond, for the, I believe that's for the public school, public education. I think that was what you talked about, Janice, and calling the representatives' attention to unfunded mandates. That one has always been a biggie for me. Senator Davis knows that. So that has been a real big concern of mine. And we would really like help with the subdivision streets, that the developer is no longer in place and the county, is having to pick up that. So that's just to mention a few of the things that we talked about, and of course, broadband, Suddenlink complaints, we hear those. We're going to continue to hear those as long as we have just one provider here. And I see Commissioner Ward's hand. I'm going to recognize her. Commissioner Ward, before we close out.
That was what I was going to do if it was appropriate, but I didn't know, do we need to vote on acceptance of these legislative goals?
You've already, as a board, you've adopted these.
Okay, I thought we had, but I wanted to make sure. With that said, I move for adjournment.
I second.
Okay, it's been moved in second that we adjourn. Madam Clerk?
Yes, Chairwoman Floyd Huggins,
Yes.
Commissioner Albright,
Yes.
Commissioner Colson,
Yes.
Commissioner McLaughlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously to adjourn at 11:15.
Thank you. Good,
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all so much.
good morning. Thank you again.
Thank you, everyone.
Everybody.